Hey guys, how are we? It's Chad here with Dean Linder-Leighton. I just thought it'd be cool to catch up with Dean. For some of you that have been here with us for over 4 years, Dean used to be here coaching with us. He's done quite a lot of things since then, the last 4 years, and now he's obviously back and we're working together going forward as Lionmode. So yeah, I thought it'd be cool to catch up and I'll ask him some hard-hitting questions and have a bit of fun and just see what he's been up to. How are we, Dean?
Good, mate.
Good. Welcome back.
Thanks, buddy.
So we'll get straight into it. So why did you leave 4 years ago?
Well, I mean, a bit of my background for any of you guys that don't know is I'm from Victoria. That's where I grew up. Started my CrossFit career. I then moved over here for the job, and at the time I hadn't made it to the CrossFit Games. I'd made it to regionals once or twice, and my main focus was on trying to create a name for myself and make the CrossFit Games. So there was a certain, I don't know how you frame it, maybe a little bit of an unease in the role that I had here conflicting with where I felt I needed to go and what I felt I needed to do in order to get where I wanted to go. So working here for 3 years with you guys, at the end of that third year, it was just time to take that step and really chase down my dream, or I think I would have regretted it. So that's what I did. I moved to Wollongong, which is where regionals was held every year at the time. Put myself right in the epicenter, got a job in a gym there, and yeah, ended up buying that gym.
Yeah, cool. So just elaborate a little bit further on that. So since leaving 4 years ago, tell us a little bit of a journey between then and now.
Yeah, so I decided to jump right in, move over to Wollongong, go 100% into making the CrossFit Games, got a job over there, and then I was pretty content with that. And then, as you know, things just happen that are unforeseen, and I was in the position to buy the gym that I was working at there. And again, I was faced with the problem of just working and trying to make the games and devoting everything to that, and then taking on a whole business. And I sort of thought, this has come up a few times in my professional career now, where it gets to a spot where you either go out on your own and own the business, or you keep working for someone.
Yeah, something's going to give.
Yeah, exactly. So I decided to then take the next step and buy that gym in Wollongong and just push forward under the new brand Lionmode, which I already had for online programming. So that's what we did, and then about 4 months later I made the CrossFit Games.
Yeah. Just to put more pressure on.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So you made the games twice now.
Yep.
Since leaving here. So tell us, how was that finally making that goal that you've been wanting to reach, and what was your favourite moment and what was your least favourite moment of the games?
Yeah, it was awesome. I mean, the first year that I qualified was the last year that they ran the CrossFit Games the way we sort of, most of us remember, with the Open, regionals, and then the CrossFit Games. So I won the Open Australia-wide for the third time. I then went to regionals and I came second. And really, for me, that was probably a cooler moment than anything at the CrossFit Games, because that's the cutthroat pinnacle point.
It's been the hurdle, hasn't it?
Yeah, exactly. And that's like, you make one mistake at regionals, you don't get to go to the CrossFit Games. So that weekend was really a massive changing point for me. Like, going into the last event in a position where I pretty much didn't need to do well. Like, me and James were a fair bit ahead on the points. So there's a bit of pressure off. And then being able to enjoy it and staying on the podium was awesome. Then going over to the gym, going over to the CrossFit Games, yeah, it was a next level. It was really where I sort of felt like a professional athlete, because I was getting on a plane to go to America to go and compete in the sport, whereas before that I'd done just local things. In every other sport I'd never competed internationally. So it was a big mind-opening experience, and you take that next level up in your perspective.
Overwhelming?
A little bit. I remember, so that year we started the CrossFit Games with the crit workout, which was the bike, the 10 laps around. And so we had to go a day before and get fitted out and do our testing time. So you did a time trial, so everyone went just by themselves. You did one lap around the thing as fast as you could, and that's how they gave you your seeding for the actual first event. And I still remember, like, we did that, it was all good, whatever. And I think it wasn't until the morning of that event where I was lined up, and I think the first event, it was like me, Alex Anderson, Matt Fraser, a few other guys that were fast on the bike in that time trial. And there was all the spectators and the cameras and whatever. It wasn't until we actually started leading off that line that I was like, oh, this is the first event of the CrossFit Games, like, time to switch on. Because up until that moment, it was like you just had a big carnival, and like no one was fully in game mode yet. I was still taking it in. You know, you got Glassman and Castro and all the people you've been watching for the last 7 years. And then it's like 3, 2, 1, and the way that event started is we all started riding, and the event didn't start until we got halfway around the track. And Dave Castro was leading it.
Like a rolling start sort of
rolling
thing.
start, yeah, and we actually just crossed a threshold, and then it was like, go.
Yeah, right.
So we're like riding off the line slowly, you had to hold your formation. I was like,
Shit's
it was
real.
very hard to get into like the,
Yeah.
because usually it's like athletes stand by, beep, and you go. And it was like, we're riding through, there's people screaming at you, and I'm like, oh, I've got to start competing now on a bike. It's really weird. So, yeah, there was moments that were overwhelming, and a lot of it for me was realizing the difference between the level of how serious people take it that are showing up to the games, and then the other side as an athlete, learning how to get into your competitive mindset in any situation. So it pointed out to me situational mindset in terms of, okay, I'm very good at performing in my gym. I'm very good performing at regionals in this stadium now that I've been there a few times. Like, I'm familiar with the atmosphere, I can get myself into the right mindset. Now that I'm at this different place in a different country with these different people, can I still get into that
Whole other comfort zone.
competitive state?
Yeah, but I mean, you did pretty well, yeah? First time at games, and where did you end up finishing?
Yeah, so I ended up 14th overall.
Yeah.
I had an event win.
Yeah.
In the Madison Tripliss. And yeah, I mean, most of the weekend I was in the top 10, so I was in the top heat, which was, you know, one of the standout points was, I mean, I won the Madison Tripliss by a fair bit, which was the swim, paddleboard, run, which was an awesome moment.
Yeah.
But it actually wasn't as cool of a moment as like the Saturday night where I was in the top heat and we're in the arena.
Yeah, atmosphere.
Yeah, because like in the Tripliss, I was in the lead for a long time, and it was just me by myself.
Yeah.
Whereas when we were in the arena, it was like I was in this lane. It was literally everyone who's done good at the CrossFit Games in the last couple of years, like Vellner, Fikowski, Matt Fraser, Noah Olsen, and we're all going down the field, and it's like in the thing. There's the lights. There's the stadium's packed. That was a cooler moment for me because that was the moment that they're the things that you watch on YouTube and you watch on the games documentaries.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah, and at that point it was, I surprised myself because I didn't get overwhelmed and I competed well.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah,
that's cool, man. So, what was the hardest thing about obviously taking on your gym, and then as well as like all of a sudden finding yourself in that position where I'm going to the games, but now I have a business to worry about as well?
Man, that's a hard thing to get into, as you know, like, and as we've spoken about previously a bunch of times, you never know until you know what it is to take on a business and run it.
Yeah.
You can think, you know, you can have all the responsibilities in the world as a manager and as an employee, and until it's your bank account with the money coming in and you're responsible for every member and paying the bills and ordering stock, and you just don't understand it.
No, yeah, it's a whole nother pressure, isn't it? You know, your direct livelihood is based on your output and being successful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean,
that with the added pressure of now making the
Yeah.
top level
Yeah.
is a lot to take on.
Yeah, so it was a bit of a whirlwind. I mean, I was lucky enough that I took over a gym that had a member base.
Yeah.
So I didn't have to start from scratch.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I was the head coach
Yeah.
and the manager, so I was doing the majority of coaching. I was doing the programming. And then I took on the ownership side and all the admin side as well. And then I decided to fully commit to to trying to win the CrossFit Games my first year. So I went over for a whole entire month to America beforehand, which means I was obviously away from the gym and I could only do so much online.
Yeah.
So we had to fill in staff, and it was a very different experience in being in a different country but still being attached to a business back home, whereas when I was an employee, as long as the rosters are sorted and it's covered, you got other people to worry about that.
Switch off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I remember literally the first year, our power got cut off at the gym because part of a bill or an old bill hadn't been paid. Like it was like a $200 bill when we usually have like a $2,000 bill.
Yeah.
And somehow something had happened, and the coach was calling me, and it was like the middle of the night in America, saying the power's off. And yeah, so it was a massive learning curve.
Yeah.
Like what it takes to leave a business for a month and still have it run properly.
Yeah. Not being able to let go.
Exactly.
Yeah, definitely. So how do you feel you've changed as a coach in the last 4 years with all the experience that you've done and gone through? And obviously there'd be a big learning curve in a lot of areas. What would be the biggest change you feel?
Oh, yeah. So I mean, as a coach, I've obviously gained more knowledge.
Yeah.
Because I've competed at a higher level. I've learnt new things. Things have changed in the sport, so you're always progressing knowledge as a coach. But the biggest change to my coaching would be how I've changed as a person.
Yeah.
So from a business standpoint, from a personal growth standpoint, I'm obviously older, so I was 25 when I was here. Now I turned 30 this year.
Yeah, yeah.
So just that in itself is a big change in maturity. But yeah, like I said, making the CrossFit Games, winning some events, running my own business in multiple locations on the East Coast. It's more that personal development and offering a completely different perspective now in how I view what it is to be a coach, how I view what it is to offer classes and programming to members who also have all of this outside stress.
Yeah.
You know, so when you come in and you're a coach and you train at the gym, you can get sort of pigeonholed into like, that's all you know and that's your stresses. And it can be hard to relate to someone else who has a mortgage, has another job, their wife has a job, they have kids, and then they're coming into the gym. And what is that gym program then offering them?
What does it mean to them?
Yeah. And how does it help them in their life? Is it adding stress? Is it taking away? Is it, how is it interacting with what they've got going on outside of the gym?
Yeah.
And now that I've had those other aspects added to my life, so running the business, running the online stuff, me as an athlete, me as a coach, dealing with staff, then what do I expect from my training and my programming? How does that interfere with all the other aspects of my life? It makes it a lot more, gives me another skill to relate to other people.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's been the biggest change for me. And really, I'd say less of it is to do with the knowledge that I've gained in coaching and like energy systems and all that sort of stuff, and more is the massive amount of personal growth that I've had.
Yeah. What would be the biggest, if you could sum it up in one sentence, like the biggest growth you've had personal-wise?
Ooh, that's tough. Just like perspective on life, I guess. Like competing such a selfish sport.
Yeah.
And everyone says it and everyone knows it, but it's really hard to see it until you take on a bunch of other stuff.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people get it when they have a kid.
Yes.
And they go, holy crap, like I didn't understand how easy it was beforehand.
Yeah.
And there's a few things in life which offer you that holy shit moment.
Bit of a wake up call moment. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I love that word. Perspective is everything. Do you know what I mean? Like everyone can have a slight variation of perspective. But when you can sort of stand back and look at and take things from a different perspective, it can really open up.
Oh, 100% agree.
Yeah. How have you changed as an athlete?
Well, it's the same thing. Like you said, I think nearly everything that we could talk about comes down to perspective.
Yeah.
If you've never been into a CrossFit class before, you walk in the first day and you're terrified.
Yeah.
You're nervous. It's like a CrossFit Games competition for you. Then you do a local comp, intermediate. Then you do RX, and you might make to regionals, etc. So that expansion of knowing what the competition is, where it is globally, the level of athlete, how they treat the sport,
Yeah.
is very eye-opening, and it changes your whole perspective on what you're actually doing.
Yeah.
So what am I actually doing when I come into the gym? Because when you're just doing a class, it's one thing. When you just make it to regionals, you're limited to the Australian athletes or the Pacific athletes. And then you go to the games, you go, oh, there's people in a whole different country who die for this.
Yeah.
And this is their whole livelihood. They might not have a job, and how serious they have it, and how they approach their day-to-day training and all of that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
Again, changes your perspective. And that lifted me as an athlete to... And it made me question why I was doing what I was doing, because you get to a certain point and your perspective on what you're doing changes to what the outside's perspective is, and that doesn't really happen until you get to a certain point in your career.
Yeah.
What I mean by that is it can come down to less about trying to get a little bit stronger, get a little bit faster or fitter, and it comes down to how professional are you as an athlete? Can you get in the right mindset? Do you make a mistake on a no rep? How do you transition from one piece of equipment to the next?
Yeah.
Whereas in the beginning stages, it's just about getting better.
Yeah.
Like you're just not strong enough, you're just not fast enough.
The 1% is the finer points really
Yeah.
start to make the big difference in the level change.
And I still at times struggle with it now you just feel like you're not good enough.
Yeah.
Or I just need to go in and do more training because I'm not fit enough because I didn't win.
Yeah.
And really you might be best off practicing a skill, or practicing how you put the bar down, or practicing how you communicate with your judge, how you get off the start line, how you run across the finish line. That might be 10 seconds in a workout, like how I communicate with you if you're my judge, how I act to a no rep, how do I leave my start mat and cross the finish line. And 10 seconds over 17 events could be winning every event.
So it's just growing as an athlete to overlook things with a whole another level of strategy.
Yeah, well you just unlock the door and you see the next level of what it is to be an athlete.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, cool. So what'd you come back to WA for?
Well, when I was young, I actually started primary school in WA. So we travelled around Australia for about 5 years when I was young. And so I'd been over here in the past. Then when I came back, I was here for 3 years. And that sort of solidified in my mind, WA is where I want to be.
Yeah.
I want to buy a house here. I want to be here long term. I just really like it. So we had the opportunity. We had a CrossFit gym in Wollongong. We had a CrossFit gym in Geelong, Victoria. And then we had an opportunity to start a CrossFit gym work with a CrossFit gym in Fremantle and rebrand that under the Lionmode name. And so I jumped at it and I said, we had someone buy into the Wollongong gym, and I said, that's where I want to live. And that was our whole intent on coming back. And just lifestyle, and I love being over in WA, really. Yeah.
The weather.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, nice. So what's your vision now for the future?
I think that so we got Lionmode. The whole vision behind Lionmode is an all-encompassing place. Like, it's always been my vision to be well-rounded, and that's just expanding on the whole CrossFit methodology of being ready for life. That's CrossFit. So how do we put that into a brand?
Yeah.
CrossFit as a training methodology is one thing. CrossFit training for the games, totally different thing.
Yeah.
And then you branch out further than that, and then how do you offer something to every walk of life, like one community, and then from there, how do you replicate that across more than just one location?
Yeah.
In every aspect, from the services you're delivering, how you deliver the programming, the coaching, what's available at the gym, all of that sort of stuff. And that's where my vision is an all-inclusive brand that we can have everywhere.
Yeah.
Similar to what other companies do in other industries, where they replicate it, and you could say walk into a Woolworths here, or you could walk into a Woolworths in Sydney, and they're laid out the same. They're the same colours.
Yeah.
There's a familiarity to there, and I think that's where I want our brand to go with functional fitness.
Yeah.
And I think you have a very similar mindset in that, in being able to offer something like that that's a next level offering that's really going to help people.
Yeah.
And being able to replicate that on a more professional level, and that's why we started teaming up.
Yeah. Sounds good to me. So what's your personal focus now?
Well, this year, I mean, as we sit here talking about this, we're still in the coronavirus restrictions and all of that. So my plan was to go back to the CrossFit Games again for the third time in a row. But all of the sanctionals have been cancelled, and they're reducing all the CrossFit Games and changing location, and whether that even runs, who knows?
Yeah.
But next year, I guess we've got to see where CrossFit's at.
Yeah.
I'd like to go back and compete and represent Australia and represent the brand again. I think that'd be great. But if not, I'm not too concerned about it, because I've done it twice. Getting back the second time was a big deal to me, to prove it wasn't a fluke.
Yep.
And I qualified through the Open again. And I went and experienced it, and I experienced it with the complete different format and the cuts and all of that sort of stuff. So my focus is still on training and CrossFit, but only as much as I enjoy it. So there was a point where I wasn't enjoying a lot of what I was doing, and it was just a means to an end. So my focus is go back to the games as long as I'm enjoying it, but the major focus is on getting this new business venture delivered and rolled out and running the way that I can see it in my mind, and that's like, the finer points of that. So that's my main focus, is working with you and trying to make that happen.
Yeah, cool. All right, so we're going to wrap this up with a few little rapid questions that you got to answer as quick as you can. Are you ready?
Yeah.
Favorite CrossFit workout?
Madison Triplets.
Because you won it.
I won it.
Very cool. Snatch PB.
140 kilos.
Favorite piece of clothing?
Shorts.
Dog's name?
Odin and Loki.
Favorite person in the world?
Me.
Best looking athlete at the games?
At the games? Sarah.
Sigmund's daughter. Very cool. Next big goal?
Re-qualify to the games and open all of these gyms.
Cool. Is it true that your girlfriend Kara's cooler than you?
Yeah, there's an argument.
Yeah, nice. Very cool. Awesome, mate. Thanks for your time. Look forward to building this brand together, and we'll see you again at the games, I'm sure.
Yeah.
And tune in, guys, because we're going to do this a fair bit going forward on all different topics, from training to nutrition to mindset. Anything really. So thanks for your time, guys. Hope you enjoyed it, and we'll see you in the gym soon.